The morning light on Kepler 442b was not like Earth's sunlight. It came from two suns, one orange and one pale yellow, and together they painted the sky in colors that Taewon still could not name after 3 days on this alien world. The air smelled like wet metal and flowers that did not exist on his home planet. Everything here was strange and new and sometimes beautiful in ways that made his chest feel tight. Corporal Taewon was a simple man with a simple job. He was a security officer for the human research team that had come to study this planet. His work was to walk around the base, check the fences, watch for danger, and keep the scientists safe while they did their important work. He liked his job because it was clear. Walk here. Check that. Report back. No confusion. No surprises. But this morning brought a surprise. He first saw the creature when he stepped out of his sleeping quarters at dawn. It was sitting on a flat rock near the edge of the base, watching him with eyes that glowed like liquid gold. The thing was small, maybe the size of his combat boot, with scales that changed color as it moved. Sometimes the scales looked copper. Sometimes they looked purple. Sometimes they looked like both colors at once, shifting and dancing in the light of the twin suns. It had 6 legs, each one ending in tiny claws that looked sharp but delicate. On its back were 2 small bumps that might one day become wings. Its snout was pointed, and its tail was long and thin, curling around the rock like a question mark. Taewon stopped walking and stared at it. The creature stared back. The research team had told him about these animals. They called them Draco minimus, which was a fancy science name that basically meant small dragon. The scientists said they were harmless, like the lizards back on Earth that ran across walls and ate bugs. The adults stayed far away from humans and never caused any trouble. But this one was not staying away. This one was watching him like he was the most interesting thing on the entire planet. Taewon waved his hand at it. "Go away," he said. "Go back to your family." The creature tilted its head to one side. It made a small sound, something between a bird chirp and a cat purr. Chirp. Then it jumped off the rock and started walking toward him. Taewon took a step back. The creature took 2 steps forward. He moved to the left. It moved with him. He tried walking in a circle, and the little dragon followed, its 6 legs moving quickly to keep up with his longer steps. "What do you want?" Taewon asked, knowing it could not understand him. Chirp, chirp. He gave up trying to lose it and started his morning patrol. Maybe the creature would get bored and leave. Maybe it just wanted to follow him for a few minutes before going back to whatever dragons did with their days. He had work to do, and he was not going to let a small animal stop him from doing it. The research base was not very big. It had 12 buildings made of metal and plastic, all connected by covered walkways so the scientists could move between them without going outside. There was a main laboratory, a medical center, sleeping quarters, a kitchen, a storage building, and several smaller buildings for special equipment. Around the whole base was a fence with sensors that would alert them if anything large came close. Taewon's job was to walk the inside of that fence every morning and every evening, checking for problems. Broken sensors, holes in the fence, animals that might have gotten through. Usually he found nothing. This planet was quiet and peaceful, with no large predators near their landing site. Today he found something, but it was not a problem with the fence. The creature followed him for the entire first lap around the base. It did not get tired. It did not get distracted. When Taewon stopped to check a sensor, it stopped too and sat on its back legs, watching him work. When he started walking again, it scrambled after him, sometimes tripping over its own feet, but always getting back up quickly. Hana, the senior researcher, was outside collecting soil samples when Taewon passed her location. She was a tall woman with long dark hair that she kept tied back in a practical bun. Her hands were covered in dirt, and she was frowning at a small device, but she looked up when she heard his footsteps. Then she looked down. "You have a shadow," she said. "I know. They do not usually come near humans. The adults run away when they see us. I noticed that too." Hana put down her device and crouched low to look at the creature. It made a small growling sound and moved closer to Taewon's boot, pressing its body against the hard material like it was hiding behind him. "Interesting," Hana said. "Very interesting. I should tell Dr. Ki-hyen about this." "Please do not make this into a big thing," Taewon said. "It is just a confused baby animal. It will leave soon." Hana smiled. It was the kind of smile that said she did not believe him at all. "If you say so, Corporal. But I think you should be careful where you step." Taewon looked down. The creature had climbed onto his boot and was now sitting there, its tiny claws gripping the laces like it had found the perfect seat. It looked up at him with those golden eyes and chirped happily. He tried to shake it off gently. It held on tighter. "Fine," he said with a sigh. "But I am not carrying you." The creature chirped again, and Taewon continued his patrol with a small dragon riding on his foot. By the time he finished his first full circuit of the base, word had spread. Daeho, the communications officer, came out of his building just to see. He was a young man with a round face and a quick smile who spent most of his days talking to other human bases across the galaxy. "Is that really a dragon?" Daeho asked, pointing at Taewon's foot. "It is a Draco Minimus. It looks like a dragon. It is not a real dragon. Dragons do not exist." Daeho crouched down to look closer. The creature stopped chirping and stared at him with sudden suspicion. Its scale shifted to a darker color, almost brown, and it pressed itself lower against Taewon's boot. "It does not like me," Daeho said, sounding a little hurt. "It does not know you, but it knows you." Taewon had no answer for that. He had been on this planet for only 3 days. He had never seen this creature before this morning. There was no reason for it to trust him more than anyone else. And yet, here it was. Daeho stood up and crossed his arms. "Maybe it thinks you are its mother. I am a grown man. Maybe it thinks you are its father, then. That is not how biology works." Daeho shrugged. "Maybe alien biology is different. Maybe they choose their parents. Maybe you got chosen." The creature chirped, and for a moment, it almost sounded like it was agreeing. Taewon decided to ignore both of them and continued walking. He had 3 more patrols to complete before his shift ended, and he was not going to waste time talking about ridiculous theories. The creature would leave eventually. These things always sorted themselves out. But as the morning went on, the creature did not leave. It stayed on his boot for the 2nd patrol. It stayed through the 3rd patrol, too. When Taewon stopped for a water break, it climbed down and sat next to his feet, waiting patiently until he was ready to move again. Other members of the research team came to look. They took pictures. They made notes. They whispered to each other and pointed at the small dragon that refused to leave the security officer alone. Taewon tried to ignore all of it, but it was hard to ignore something sitting on your foot. The twin suns climbed higher in the strange sky. The morning grew warmer. The creature's scales changed color again, becoming lighter and more colorful in the bright light. It made that rumbling sound that Daeho had called contentment, a low vibration that Taewon could feel through his boot. By the time the suns reached their highest point, marking midday on this alien world, Taewon had accepted one simple fact. The creature was not going to leave. It had followed him all morning, through every patrol, past every building, around every corner. It had watched him check sensors and inspect fences and talk to other team members. It had ridden on his boot and sat by his feet and looked up at him with those golden eyes like he was the center of its entire universe. And now, as Taewon sat down for his lunch break, The creature climbed onto both of his feet, curled into a small bowl, and closed its eyes. It was home. Whatever that meant to a small dragon on a planet far from Earth, it had decided that home was wherever this human's feet happened to be. Taewon looked down at the sleeping creature and sighed. He had a feeling his simple job had just become much more complicated. Taewon woke up each morning to find it waiting outside his door. It followed him to breakfast. It followed him on patrol. It followed him to the bathroom, though he drew the line there and made it wait outside. It followed him back to his sleeping quarters at night and curled up on a small mat he had put near his bed because he felt bad leaving it outside in the cold. The research team found all of this very funny. Captain Yoonji was the leader of their expedition. She was a small woman, barely reaching to one shoulder, but she had sharp eyes that missed nothing and a voice that could make anyone listen. When she spoke, people paid attention. She had led missions to 6 different planets, and she had never lost a team member. Everyone respected her. She was also very amused by Taewon's new companion. "It still has not left?" she asked on the 4th morning, watching the creature ride on Taewon's boot as he made his patrol past the command building. "No, Captain. Has it tried to bite anyone?" "No, Captain. Has it shown any aggressive behavior at all?" Taewon looked down at the creature. It was currently trying to catch a small flying insect that had landed near his ankle. It missed, fell off his boot, picked itself up, and climbed back on like nothing had happened. Its scales were bright purple in the morning light, and it was making that happy rumbling sound again. "No, Captain. It is not aggressive. It is just persistent." Yoonji smiled. It was the kind of smile that made Taewon nervous. Dr. Ki-hyen wants to study it. She thinks there might be something special about this bonding behavior. She has asked me to make sure you cooperate with her research. I am always happy to cooperate with research, Captain. Good, because she is going to want to follow you around and take readings. Try not to look too unhappy about it. Taewon did look unhappy about it, but he nodded anyway. Orders were orders, and he was a soldier who followed orders. Dr. Ki-hyen appeared an hour later with a bag full of equipment. She was older than most of the team, with gray hair cut short and practical glasses that she was always pushing up her nose. She spoke slowly and carefully, like every word mattered, and she wrote everything down in a small notebook that she carried everywhere. "Corporal Taewon," she said, falling into step beside him. "Thank you for allowing me to observe. I do not think I had a choice, Doctor. You always have a choice. But I appreciate your cooperation nonetheless." She pulled a small scanner from her bag and pointed it at the creature on his boot. "Fascinating. Its heart rate increases when you start moving. It decreases when you stop. It is completely synchronized with your activity patterns." "What does that mean?" "It means the creature is bonded with you. It sees you as its... I'm not sure what word to use. Parent is not quite right. Neither is partner or companion. Perhaps anchor is the best term. You are its anchor to the world." Taewon did not know what to say to that. He was a security officer. He checked fences and watched for danger. He was not prepared to be an anchor for an alien life form. "Why me?" he asked finally. "There are 30 other people on this base. Why did it choose me?" Dr. Ki-hyen studied her scanner for a long moment before answering. "That is the question I am trying to answer. The adults of this species are very careful about who they bond with. They observe potential partners for long periods before making any approach. They look for specific qualities, though we do not yet understand what those qualities are. But this one is not an adult. It is a baby. Yes, and babies of many species are more open, more willing to take risks. But even so, it chose you specifically. Not Hana, who was the first person to come outside that morning. Not Daeho, who walks near the same area every day. You." The creature chirped, as if agreeing with her words. They walked together for the rest of the morning, Dr. Keehan taking readings and making notes while Taewon completed his patrol. The creature stayed on his boot the entire time, seemingly unbothered by the scanner or the attention. It only showed discomfort when other people came too close, pressing itself against Taewon's leg and making small warning sounds. "It is protective of you," Dr. Keehan observed. "Interesting. Usually the bonded adult protects the young one, but this creature seems to think it needs to protect you. I do not need protecting. I am a soldier." The creature does not know what a soldier is. It only knows that you are its person, and it wants to keep you safe. Taewon looked down at the small dragon on his boot. It looked back up at him with those golden eyes, and for a moment he felt something strange in his chest. Something warm and unexpected. He shook the feeling away and kept walking. That evening, something changed. Taewon was eating dinner in the common area when Daeho came running in, his face excited. "The captain says there is going to be a supply drop tomorrow. A ship is coming with new equipment and fresh food." Everyone in the room cheered. They've been on this planet for almost 2 months, and the food supplies were getting boring. Fresh vegetables and real fruit would be a wonderful change from the processed meals they had been eating. But Taewon did not cheer. He was looking at the creature, which had suddenly gone very still. Its scales had changed to a dark gray color, almost black, and it was staring at the ceiling with wide eyes. "What is wrong with it?" Daeho asked, noticing the change. "I do not know." The creature made a sound Taewon had never heard before. It was not a chirp or a rumble. It was a high, thin whine, like it was frightened or in pain. It jumped off his boot and ran to the corner of the room, hiding behind a storage container. "Something is scaring it," Dr. Keehan said, coming over with her scanner. "Its stress hormones are very high. Its heart is racing." But nothing happened. Daeho just said. Taewon stopped. "The ship. Is it afraid of ships?" "It has never seen a ship before. It was born here. Then what?" The creature whined again, and Taewon felt that strange warm feeling in his chest again. Without thinking, he walked over to the corner and crouched down. The creature looked at him with frightened eyes, trembling. "Hey," he said softly. "It is okay. Nothing is going to hurt you." Slowly, carefully, he reached out his hand. The creature sniffed his fingers, then pressed its head against his palm. The trembling did not stop, but it got smaller. The whining faded to a quiet whimper. "Can I pick you up?" Taewon asked, not expecting an answer. The creature chirped once, weakly. He scooped it up in both hands and held it against his chest. It was warm, warmer than he expected, and he could feel its heart beating fast against his fingers. But as he held it, the heartbeat began to slow. The trembling stopped. The dark gray scales slowly shifted back to purple. When he looked up, everyone in the room was staring at him. "What?" he said, feeling his face get hot. "You are a natural," Hana said with a smile. "I am just." It was scared. "I helped." "You did more than help," Dr. Keehan said, writing furiously in her notebook. "You calmed it down completely in less than 2 minutes. The adults of this species take much longer to recover from stress responses. Your presence has a measurable effect on its biology." Taewon did not know what to say. He just stood there, holding the small creature against his chest, feeling its warmth seep through his uniform. The creature sighed, closed its eyes, and fell asleep in his hands. "What scared it in the first place?" Daeho asked. "Seriously, I just said a ship was coming. How does it even know what a ship is?" Dr. Keehan shook her head. "I do not think it knows what a ship is. I think it sensed something else. These creatures are empathic to some degree. They can feel emotions through physical contact. but it was not touching anyone when it got scared. Perhaps the range is greater than we thought. Or perhaps... She paused, her eyes going wide. Perhaps it felt something from outside. From far away. Like what? I do not know. But whatever it was, it frightened a creature that has shown no fear of anything on this planet. The room went quiet. Everyone was thinking the same thing, but no one wanted to say it out loud. Finally, Captain Yunji spoke from the doorway. No one had noticed her come in. Tomorrow morning, I want full sensor sweeps of the area. Double patrols. Everyone stays alert. She looked at Tae-won and the sleeping creature in his arms. And Corporal? Keep that thing close. It might be trying to tell us something. Tae-won nodded, holding the creature a little tighter. That night, he did not make it sleep on the mat near his bed. He let it curl up on his pillow, next to his head, where he could hear its soft, rumbling breath as they both fell asleep. Outside, the twin suns set behind the mountains, and the sky turned colors that no human language had words for. The planet was quiet and peaceful, just like it had been since they arrived. But somewhere out there, something had scared a small dragon enough to make it hide. And Tae-won could not stop wondering what that something might be. Tae-won watched it descend through the pale sky, its engines making a sound like thunder rolling across mountains. The creature sat on his shoulder now, having graduated from his boot to this higher position over the past few days. It watched the ship too, its golden eyes tracking the movement carefully. It did not seem scared anymore. Its scales were a calm blue color, and it made soft chirping sounds as the ship touched down on the landing pad outside the base fence. You were scared of nothing, Tae-won said to it. Just a normal ship. The creature chirped in a way that almost sounded like disagreement. The supply drop brought exactly what everyone had hoped for. Fresh fruit from the farming colonies. New equipment for the scientists. Personal packages for team members who had families back on other worlds. Everyone was excited and happy, crowding around the landing pad to collect their items. Tae-won stayed back, watching from a distance. His job was security, and a supply drop meant strangers on the base. The ship's crew were not threats, but he had been trained to be careful. He kept his eyes moving, checking every person, every container, every shadow. The creature did the same thing. Its head turned when his turned. Its eyes focused where his focused. It was learning from him, Tae-won realized. Copying his behavior. Being careful because he was being careful. Dr. Ki-hein found him an hour later, after the ship had departed and normal operations had resumed. She had new equipment in her hands, complex devices that Tae-won did not recognize. These are from the main research station, she explained, showing him a device that looked like a helmet with too many wires. They are designed to measure neural activity in alien species. I requested them specifically for studying your companion. Tae-won looked at the creature on his shoulder. Will it hurt? Not at all. It simply reads brain patterns from a distance. The creature will not even know it is happening. Then, why are you telling me first? Dr. Ki-hein smiled. It was a small smile, gentle and understanding. Because you are its anchor. If you are nervous, it will be nervous. I need you to be calm so I can get accurate readings. He appreciated that she asked. He appreciated that she understood. Go ahead, he said. She spent the next several hours following him around the base, just like before, but now she was focused entirely on the creature's brain activity. She would make small sounds of surprise sometimes, or write frantically in her notebook, but she did not explain what she was finding. Tae-won tried not to ask too many questions. He did his patrol, checked his sensors, talked to other team members about normal things. The creature stayed on his shoulder and watched everything with alert golden eyes. Finally, near sunset, Dr. Ki-hein asked him to come to her laboratory. The laboratory was a small building near the center of the base, filled with equipment and samples and charts that Tae-Won did not understand. Dr. Ki-Hyen cleared a space on her desk and put up a display screen showing colorful images of what he assumed were brain patterns. "This is remarkable," she said, pointing at the screen. "This is the creature's brain activity over the past 6 hours. Do you see these patterns here?" Tae-Won looked. He saw wavy lines and color changes, but they meant nothing to him. "I do not know what I am looking at," he admitted. "These are emotional patterns: happiness, curiosity, alertness, fear." She pointed at different sections of the display. "And these right here are mirror patterns." Mirror patterns? The creature is not just feeling its own emotions. It is feeling yours too. When you were happy, it was happy. When you were focused and alert, it became focused and alert. When you felt a moment of sadness thinking about something, it felt that sadness with you. Tae-Won stared at the screen. He remembered thinking about his grandmother during the patrol, a brief memory of her cooking in the kitchen back on Earth. He had felt a small pang of missing her. And the creature had felt that too? "That is very strange," he said quietly. "It is called emotional synchronization. Many social species have some version of it. Dogs on Earth can sense when their owners are sad. Dolphins work together using emotional signals. But this is different. This is much deeper." She changed the display to show a comparison image. "This is the creature's brain activity when you are nearby. And this is what happens when you leave the room, even for a moment." The difference was dramatic. The first image was full of color and activity. The second image was dark and quiet, with only small flashes of what Tae-Won guessed was fear or anxiety. "It depends on you completely," Dr. Ki-Hyen said. "Not just for safety or food, for emotional stability, for its sense of self. You are not just its anchor. You are its foundation." The creature chirped from his shoulder, as if understanding that it was being discussed. "Why?" Tae-Won asked. "I am not special. I am just a soldier. I walk in circles and check equipment. There must be something wrong with its thinking." Dr. Ki-Hyen shook her head. "There is nothing wrong with it. These creatures are extremely intelligent. They can sense things about people that we cannot even detect ourselves. It chose you because it saw something in you. Something valuable. Something it needed. What could it possibly need from me?" She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was soft. "Safety, consistency, kindness. You do the same things every day in the same way. You are calm and steady and patient. You did not chase it away when it first followed you. You did not get angry when it would not leave. You adapted to its presence and made space for it in your life." She paused, looking at him with something like admiration. To a creature that can feel emotions, those qualities are not small things. They are everything. They are everything. You feel safe to be around. You feel like home. Tae-Won did not know how to respond. He had never thought of himself as special in any way. He was just doing his job, being reliable, following his routine. He did not know that those simple things could matter so much to another living being. The creature climbed down from his shoulder and settled in his lap. It curled into a ball and started making that rumbling sound, the one that meant it was content and happy. Tae-Won put his hand on its back automatically, feeling the warmth of its scales. "What should I do?" he asked. "Keep doing what you are doing," Dr. Ki-Hyen said. "Be yourself. That is what it needs. That is what it chose." He nodded slowly. It seemed like such a small thing to give. Just being himself. Just being steady and kind and patient. But maybe that was not small at all. Maybe that was the biggest thing anyone could give to another living being. That night, After dinner, Taewon sat outside his quarters and watched the stars. The night sky on this planet was different from Earth's sky. More stars were visible here, scattered across the darkness like spilled salt. 2 small moons hung near the horizon, one pale white and one faintly blue. The creature sat on his feet, watching the stars too. Or maybe it was not watching them. Maybe it was just watching him watch them, feeling what he felt as he looked up at the endless universe. Deho came out and sat beside him. He did not say anything for a while, just sat there in comfortable silence. The creature chirped once at him, but did not move from Taewon's feet. "I heard what Dr. Kihyun found," Deho said finally. "About the brain patterns. Everyone heard, I think. News travels fast on a small base. It is pretty amazing. You have a little alien that is emotionally connected to you. Like a soulmate, but with scales." Taewon snorted. "That is a strange way to describe it. Maybe. But it is also kind of beautiful, right? This creature that could have chosen anyone or anything chose you. Decided that out of everything in the whole universe, your feet were the best place to be." Taewon looked down at the creature. It looked back up at him, golden eyes reflecting the starlight. "I did not ask for this," he said. "The best things never come because we ask for them. They just happen." Deho stood up and stretched. "Get some sleep, Corporal. You have patrol in the morning. And now you have someone counting on you to feel safe." He walked back inside, leaving Taewon alone with the creature and the stars. Taewon stayed outside for a long time, thinking about what it meant to be someone's foundation, to be the reason another living thing felt safe enough to sleep, calm enough to explore, happy enough to chirp and rumble and play dot. It was a responsibility he had not asked for. But as he sat there under the alien stars, he realized he did not want to give it up either. The creature climbed into his lap and fell asleep. Trusting him completely, Taewon stayed awake, keeping watch, being exactly what it needed him to be. One moment the twin suns were shining bright in a clear sky. The next moment, clouds were rolling over the mountains like a wave of darkness, swallowing the light and bringing a wind that screamed through the base like an angry animal. Tae-Won was on the far side of the base when the first drops fell. He was 300 meters from the main buildings, checking a sensor that had been giving strange readings all morning. The creature was tucked inside his jacket, its usual spot when the weather turned cold. The rain hit him like a wall. It was not like rain on Earth. This rain came sideways, driven by winds that made it hard to stand up straight. Each drop felt like a small stone hitting his skin, and within seconds, he was soaking wet and shivering. His navigation display flickered once, twice, then died completely. The electromagnetic interference from the storm was too strong. "Corporal, report." Captain Yoonji's voice crackled through his communication device, broken and distorted. "I am trying to return, Captain. My navigation is down. I cannot see anything." Static was his only answer. Taewon turned in a slow circle, trying to find any landmark that would tell him which way to go. But the rain was too thick. He could not see the buildings. He could not see the fence. He could barely see his own hand in front of his face. The creature shifted inside his jacket, pressing against his chest. He could feel it trembling, but not from cold. It was making that high whining sound again, the one it had made when the supply ship was announced. Fear. "I know," he said, putting a hand over the lump in his jacket. "I am scared too, but we will find our way back. Just stay calm." Easier said than done. The wind was getting stronger, pushing him off balance. The ground under his feet was turning to mud, making every step dangerous. If he fell and injured himself out here, no one would be able to find him until the storm passed. By then, it might be too late. He took a deep breath and tried to think. The base was to his west when he left. The mountains were to his east. If he could figure out which direction the wind was coming from, he might be able to orient himself. But the wind was coming from everywhere. It swirled and changed direction constantly, like the storm itself was confused. The creature stopped trembling. Taiwan felt the change immediately. One moment it was shaking against his chest. The next moment it was completely still, almost rigid. And then it started to move. It climbed up inside his jacket until its head was poking out near his collar. Its tiny claws gripped his shirt, pulling toward his left side. Not just gripping, pulling with purpose. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Chirp, chirp, chirp." The creature pulled again, more insistently this time. Its whole body was pointed to the left, like a compass needle pointing north. Its golden eyes were focused on something Taewon could not see. He remembered what Dr. Ki Hyun had said about these creatures. They could sense things that humans could not. They could feel emotions, read patterns, detect changes in the environment that were invisible to human senses. Maybe they could sense directions too. Maybe this creature knew something he did not. He had no other options. His technology was dead. His senses were useless in this storm. Either he trusted the creature, or he stayed here and hoped for the best. Taewon started walking to the left. The creature's pulling became less urgent. It chirped in what sounded like approval and settled against his chest, still pointing in the same direction. When he veered too far right, it would shift and pull him back. When he went too far left, same thing. It was guiding him, step by step, through a storm that should have been impossible to navigate. He walked for what felt like hours. His legs burned. His lungs ached. The rain never stopped hitting him, and the wind never stopped trying to knock him down. But he kept walking, following the direction of the creature tucked against his chest. The creature started rumbling. At first, Taewon thought it was the fear sound again. But no, this was different. This was the happy sound, the content sound, getting stronger with each step. And then, through the rain, he saw lights. The base. The main airlock. He was less than 50 meters away. Taewon broke into a run, stumbling and sliding through the mud, but not caring. He hit the airlock door and slapped the emergency panel, and the door slid open, and he fell through into warm, dry air. Daeho was there, staring at him with wide eyes. "How did you find your way back?" he demanded. The storm knocked out everything. Even the rescue teams could not go out to look for you. Taewon sank to the floor, exhausted and shaking. The creature climbed out of his jacket and sat on his chest, chirping proudly. Its scales were bright gold now, almost glowing in the artificial light. "I had help," Taewon said. Dr. Tyan came running down the corridor, her scanner already in her hand. She crouched next to him and pointed the device at the creature. "Remarkable," she breathed. Its stress patterns during the storm were almost identical to normal resting patterns. It was not scared at all. It was focused, concentrating. "It led me home," Taewon said. "I do not know how it knew which way to go, but it led me home." Captain Yoonji appeared behind Dr. Ki Hyun. Her face was pale, the first time Taewon had ever seen her look truly worried. "We thought we lost you, Corporal." The creature would not let that happen. Yoonji looked at the small dragon sitting on Taewon's chest. It looked back at her with those golden eyes, chirping once as if to say hello. "Then we owe it our thanks," the captain said quietly. They helped Taewon to the medical center, where he was checked for injuries and given warm clothes and hot food. The creature stayed with him the entire time, never leaving his side. It watched the medical officer work with alert eyes, as if making sure nothing bad happened to its human. Hana came to visit him an hour later, carrying a small container. "I found this in the kitchen supplies," she said, opening the container to reveal small pieces of dried meat. "I thought your companion might be hungry too." The creature sniffed the meat suspiciously, then took a piece in its tiny mouth. It chewed slowly, its golden eyes half closing with pleasure. Then it chirped and took another piece. "It likes you now," Tawan observed. "It remembers that I did not try to touch it when we first met." Hana smiled. "I think it respects people who respect boundaries." She left the container and returned to her work. Taewon sat in the medical bed, feeding small pieces of meat to the creature and watching the storm rage outside the windows. The wind was starting to weaken now, the rain falling straight instead of sideways. The worst was over. Daeho came by later, still looking amazed. "I talked to the weather team," he said. "They said that storm should have been impossible to navigate on foot. The wind patterns were completely chaotic. There was no way to predict which direction was which. And yet we made it. And yet you made it." Daeho shook his head. "That thing saved your life, you know. Without it, you would have wandered in circles until you collapsed." Taewon looked at the creature, now dozing on his lap after eating its fill. It looked so small and fragile, nothing like a hero. Just a tiny dragon with scales that changed color and a strange attachment to his feet. But it had saved him. This little creature that he had tried to shoo away on the first day had become the reason he was still alive. "I owe it everything," he said quietly. "You owe each other," Daeho corrected. "It chose you because it knew you would protect it. And it protected you because that is what family does." Family. It was a strange word to use for a relationship between a human and an alien creature. But as Taewon looked at the small dragon sleeping in his lap, he could not think of a better one. The storm passed by midnight. The twin suns rose the next morning over a base that was wet and muddy but undamaged. Taewon went on his patrol as usual, with the creature on his shoulder instead of his boot now. It had been promoted, he decided, from foot companion to shoulder companion. Every person he passed on his patrol smiled at him and the creature. Word had spread about what happened during the storm. Everyone knew that the small dragon had saved the security officer's life. At lunch, Taewon found a small package waiting for him in the common room. Inside was a hand-sewn carrying pouch made from soft material and designed to hang from his belt. A note inside said it was from the engineering team, so the creature would have a comfortable place to rest during long patrols. The creature climbed into the pouch, circled twice, and settled down with a contented sigh. Its tail hung out one side, and its head poked out the other, watching everything with alert golden eyes. For the first time since arriving on this planet, Taewon felt like he truly belonged here, not because of his job or his team or his mission, because of a small dragon that had chosen his feet as home and then guided him through a storm to make sure they both stayed safe. He touched the creature's head gently, feeling its warmth against his fingers. "Thank you," he said softly, "for choosing me." The creature chirped and closed its eyes, completely at peace. The transport ship Horizon's Edge hung in orbit above the planet, waiting to carry the research team back to Proxima Station. Containers were packed. Equipment was stored. Final reports were written and sent. The base that had been home for almost 3 months was slowly being emptied. Taewon stood at the edge of the landing pad, watching the crew load the last of the supplies into the transport shuttle. The creature sat in its carrying pouch on his belt, watching everything with curious golden eyes. Its scales were bright green today, a color Taewon had learned meant it was feeling calm and curious. He had learned many things about the creature over the past weeks. He had learned that blue meant it was relaxed. Purple meant it was happy. Gold meant it was excited. Gray meant it was scared or worried. And green meant it was ready for something new. He had also learned that it liked dried meat better than fresh vegetables. That it could sleep for 12 hours straight if he let it. That it made a special chirping sound just for him that it never made for anyone else. that it hated the smell of the clean chemicals used in the laboratory and would sneeze whenever they walked past. He had learned that it needed to be near him to feel safe, and he had learned that he needed it nearby to feel complete. The problem was that colonial regulations did not allow alien creatures on transport ships, at least not without special permission. Yong-Su was the man in charge of giving that permission. He had arrived on the horizon's edge as the colonial administration's representative. He was a thin man with a thin face and thin patience for anything that did not fit neatly into his forms and procedures. He stood in front of Tae-Won now, holding a tablet computer and frowning. "The creature cannot come with you," he said flatly. "Xenobiological specimens require extensive quarantine procedures. There are forms to fill out, tests to conduct, approval processes that take months." "It is not a specimen," Tae-Won said. "It is an alien life form. That makes it a specimen by definition. It saved my life. That makes it something else." Yong-Su's frown deepened. He was not a bad man, Tae-Won knew. He was just a man who followed rules because rules made sense to him. Rules kept things organized and predictable. But some things could not be organized. Some things could not be predicted. Some things simply happened, and you had to deal with them the best you could. Captain Yoonji appeared beside them, her tablet in hand. She looked calm and professional, as always, but there was something in her eyes that made Tae-Won feel hopeful. "Mr. Yong-Su," she said pleasantly, "I have something for you to review." She handed him her tablet. He took it with a suspicious expression and started reading. His eyebrows rose. "This is a formal recommendation from the xenobiology team," he said slowly, "for a paired observation study. The creature remains with Corporal Tae-Won for continued behavioral documentation. Correct. Signed by Dr. Ki-Hyun and by you. Also, correct. And supported by 47 pages of research data, showing that separating the creature from the corporal could cause significant psychological harm to the animal." Yoonji smiled. "We were very thorough in our documentation." Yong-Su scrolled through the data for a long time. His frown shifted from frustration to resignation to something almost like respect. Finally, he put down the tablet and looked at the creature in its pouch. The creature looked back at him with golden eyes and chirped once. "Fine," Yong-Su said. "But if there are any incidents—" "There will not be any incidents," Tae-Won said firmly. "The creature has a perfect behavioral record," Yoonji added. "It has never bitten, scratched, or attacked anyone. The most dangerous thing it has done is steal food from the communal kitchen, and frankly, we all do that." Yong-Su almost smiled. Almost. "Very well. The creature is approved for transport under Research Exemption 17B. But I want weekly reports on its behavior and health. And if anything goes wrong, it will not," Tae-Won said. "I promise." The administrator nodded once and walked away to supervise more loading. Captain Eunji watched him go with a satisfied expression. "Thank you, Captain," Tae-Won said. "For the paperwork?" "Thank Dr. Ki-Hyun. She spent 3 days putting that report together. She cares about you and your companion more than she likes to show." Tae-Won made a mental note to thank the doctor personally. But for now, he had one more thing to do before leaving this planet. He walked to the edge of the base, past the fence, out onto the open ground where he had first seen the creature almost 7 weeks ago. The rock where it had been sitting was still there, flat and gray in the light of the twin suns. Other dragons were nearby, adults much larger than the hatchling in his pouch. They had come closer to the base over the past weeks, watching from a safe distance as if curious about the humans who were leaving. Their scales shimmered in the sunlight, copper and purple and gold. One of them was larger than the others. Its scales were a deep bronze color, and it moved with the slow dignity of age. It watched Tae-Won approach with wise old eyes. The creature in his pouch stirred. It climbed out and sat on his shoulder, looking at the adult dragons. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the creature made a sound. Not a chirp, not a rumble. Something different. Something that sounded almost like words in a language Tae-Won could not understand. The bronze dragon responded with the same kind of sound. They talked for several minutes, the hatchling on Tae-Won's shoulder and the elder on the rocky ground. Tae-Won did not understand what they were saying, but he felt the emotions flowing through the creature's body. Happiness, sadness, gratitude, determination. Finally, the conversation ended. The bronze dragon dipped its head once, a gesture that seemed like respect or farewell. Then it turned and walked back toward the mountains, and the other adults followed. The creature watched them go. Then it turned back to Tae-Won and rubbed its head against his cheek. "Was that your family?" he asked softly. "Chirp. And you told them you were leaving with me?" "Chirp, chirp. Are they okay with that?" The creature made the rumbling sound, deep and content. Then it climbed back into its pouch and settled down, ready for whatever came next. Tae-Won understood. The creature had a family out there in the mountains. Dragons who loved it and would miss it. But it had chosen to stay with him, to leave its world behind and venture into the vast universe because being with him was more important than staying with its own kind. He felt the weight of that choice pressing against his heart. The responsibility, the honor, the love. 3 months later, Tae-Won stood on the observation deck of Proxima Station, watching ships come and go against the backdrop of endless stars. The creature, now nearly twice its original size, was draped across his feet. It had been officially named Bile in the station records, a Korean word that meant star. Dr. Ki-hyun had suggested the name, and Tae-Won had agreed because it felt right. The creature had come from a distant world, bright and beautiful, and unlike anything else in the universe. A young ensign walked by and stopped, staring at the dragon on Tae-Won's feet. "Is that a real dragon?" she asked with wide eyes. "Technically, it is a Draco Minimus from Kepler 442b. It looks like a dragon." Tae-Won smiled. He heard that comment at least 3 times a day now. "It does it not?" The ensign crouched down to get a closer look. Bile lifted her head, studied the stranger with golden eyes, and chirped once in greeting. Her scales shifted to a welcoming blue. "She is beautiful," the ensign said. "How did you get her?" "I did not get her. She got me." Tae-Won reached down and scratched behind Bile's ear ridges. A spot he had discovered made her purr like a very large cat. "She followed me around one morning until she decided my feet were the best home in the galaxy. And I decided she was probably right." The ensign laughed and continued on her way. Bile watched her go, then settled back against Tae-Won's feet with a contented sigh. Across the station, through the windows, ships were departing for 100 different worlds. Humans were exploring the galaxy, building new homes, meeting new forms of life, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. It was an age of discovery and wonder, and Tae-Won was proud to be a small part of it. But the most important discovery he had ever made was not a planet or a star or a piece of technology. It was a small creature with scales that changed color and eyes like liquid gold. A creature that had chosen him for reasons he still did not fully understand. A creature that had saved his life and given his life meaning. Bile chirped in her sleep, dreaming whatever dragons dreamed about. Tae-Won kept watch over her, just as he did every night, being exactly what she needed him to be. Steady, patient, kind, home. Sometimes, the biggest adventures started with the smallest things. A creature sitting on a rock. A choice to follow instead of run away. A decision to trust. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, those small things became the center of your entire world. Tae-Won was very lucky indeed.